I moved into the quiet cul-de-sac of Whispering Pines to escape the noise of DC politics, a new town, a peaceful neighborhood, and finally, just maybe a home where no one knew my name. They came knocking 2 days after I unpacked. A crisp folder, gold-trimmed with embossed letters, Whispering Pines Homeowners Association. The letter was formal, laced with threats disguised as politeness. I was expected to join, pay dues, submit to their rules, or... Well, the "or" wasn't clear. I smiled and handed the folder back. "No, thank you," I said. "I'm fine. On my own." You would think I committed treason. That's when the phone calls began, then the citations, the warnings, and the anonymous notes shoved into my mailbox, written in jagged red marker. Join or leave. I didn't scare easy. I've sentenced drug lords and arms dealers. An HOA board wasn't going to intimidate me. Then came the night I heard footsteps in my backyard, and saw the gasoline cans by the shed, and smelled the smoke. At 3:17 a.m., flames consumed my house. Every book, every photo, gone. They didn't knock on my door to warn me. They stood across the street and watched. Laughing. Recording. They thought I was just another stubborn homeowner, but they didn't know who I was. Yet, because I hadn't told them my real name. I was never just Elaine Carter, the widow from Washington. I was Judge Elaine Monroe, U.S. District Court. And now, I wasn't just homeless. I was coming for them. I sat on the curb barefoot, wrapped in a soot-stained blanket as the firemen extinguished what was left of my life. The night air stung with chemicals and betrayal. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, but no one came forward, not even to ask if I was alive. I stared at the flames, thinking of the oath I swore 15 years ago, standing in front of a federal seal, to uphold justice without fear or favor. Well, it was time to honor that oath. Personally. By dawn, I was in a hotel room 2 towns over, away from the whisper campaigns of Whispering Pines. The smell of smoke still clung to my hair. My hands trembled, but not from fear, from purpose. I opened my laptop and began digging. Property records, tax filings, HOA bylaws. Every name on the board. The President Darla Keene had 3 civil complaints buried under sealed arbitration, all quietly settled. One included accusations of financial fraud, another, vandalism, covered up by her cousin, the local sheriff. They had a system, a family. And a habit of destroying people who didn't play by their rules. But this time, they picked the wrong woman, because I knew how to navigate systems. I created them. I called an old friend in the Justice Department. I need unofficial eyes on a suburban HOA, civil code abuse, possibly RICO-level fraud. His voice paused. On the other end, Elaine, are you saying they burned your house down? I'm saying I need you to trust me. I didn't wait for permission. I called a second number one I hadn't used in years. A U.S. Marshal named Deeks answered, half asleep. Judge Monroe, I'm activating the favors you owe me. I want surveillance, quiet. I want names, connections, timelines. There was silence. Then, who am I watching? The board of Whispering Pines, HOA, I said. Especially Darla. Keene, he laughed, like I'd made a joke. I didn't. I stared at the flickering hotel lamp. They think I'm nobody. By sunrise, the story had begun to spread, but not the truth. No, Whispering Pines whispered lies. Darla's version painted me as a bitter loner, reckless, unstable. They said my electrical wiring was faulty. Side, I was irresponsible. Side, I refused the community's helping hand. But behind those painted fences and manicured hedges, they were panicking. Because Darla knew something no one else in that town did, who I really was. The night before, she found my real name in a forwarded email. One of her contacts in the sheriff's department ran a background check after I refused to pay the $780 HO initiation fee. That's when it hit her. Judge Elaine Monroe, the one who froze the assets of a billionaire cartel, who sent 3 state senators to prison in 1 year, the one who ruled without fear even when threats came wrapped in flowers. I wasn't some grieving widow anymore. I was a tick in time. So she went into hiding temporarily, but not before pulling every string she had. Police buddies, city clerks, a county assessor who owed her husband a favor. They tried to bury everything, but Deeks was 2 steps ahead. He sent me surveillance logs, 3 meetings in 2 days at an old cafe outside city limits. Darla, 2 HOA board members, and a man I instantly recognized from a sealed file, Silas Carrington, a disbarred attorney, former RICO suspect. What was he doing at an HOA meeting? Unless this was never just about power. It was about money. Money. Laundered through fines, maintenance fees, fake citations, and ghost construction projects. An entire suburban racketeering ring, hidden behind homeowner bylaws. This was organized. Crime in cardigans, and they just targeted a federal judge. I'd stayed quiet too long. So I put on a black dress, fixed my hair, and walked into Whispering Pines' next HOA meeting. Uninvited. Gasps. Whispering. One woman nearly choked on her lemon water. Darla sat at the head of the table. Mid-sentence. She froze when she saw me. Elaine, she said slowly. You're trespassing. I slid my old badge onto the table. It clinked like thunder. My name is Judge Monroe. Ma'am, I said, and I'm placing this meeting under legal observation. Continue at your own risk. The moment I heard that word, activate, I knew we'd crossed a line. This wasn't petty suburbia anymore. This was deep. That night, I didn't go back to the hotel. I drove straight to Deek's safe house, where 3 computer screens flickered with motion triggered. Surveillance feeds from across Whispering Pines, Darla Keene's home, the clubhouse office, even the maintenance shed, which, turns out, was wired like a bunker. Judge, Deek said, rubbing his temples, you've officially kicked the hornet's nest. He showed me the feed from earlier that evening. Darla, Silas Carrington, and 2 unknown men unloading files, paper records, hard drives, even a burn bag into a black SUV, and then the shed went up in flames. Deliberate, controlled, inside job. They were burning evidence. Erasing their trail, but not fast enough, because Deeks had already cloned the drives from their main terminal earlier that week. When we opened the files names, transactions, backdated citations, money transfers through shell landscaping companies, it all spilled out like poison. Over $4.2 million, extracted from scared homeowners through threats, phony repairs, and predatory liens. Some had lost their houses, others had gone silent, missing. One file was marked, Monroe classified. Inside, my driver's license photo, my old home's blueprint, aerial shots from a drone, and a copy of my retirement plan. They were planning this before I even said no. This wasn't retaliation. This was strategy. They'd been researching me, profiling me, targeting me. I sat back, stunned, but only for a moment, because something caught my eye in the metadata, a login code attached to those files, .s.c.45 Silas. Carrington. And a location tag. Not Whispering Pines, the Glass House Club, a private lodge outside city limits, elite, off-grid, no-cell reception. No prying eyes, a known meeting place for former officials and wealthy power players. They weren't just hiding the money there, they were hiding everything. The glass house loomed like a palace of secrets, high stone walls, mirrored windows, and a long driveway that screamed wealth soaked in guilt. Deeks parked 3 blocks down, his eyes hard. I wore a wire tucked beneath my collar. My old badge rested against my ribs like a promise. I walk in alone, I told him. He didn't argue. He knew this was mine. Inside, the air reeked of cigars and ambition. Men in tailored suits leaned over drinks, whispering. And there, in the glass-paneled back room, stood Darla Keene and Silas Carrington, smiling like foxes at a funeral. You're a hard woman to burn. Darla smirked. And you're not nearly as smart as you think, I replied, slowly placing my phone on the table. Live-streaming. To federal servers. To newsrooms. To the Department of Justice. To every homeowner they'd bled dry. Carrington moved fast, reaching for something beneath his blazer, but I was faster. I pulled my badge and a second item, a federal injunction signed that very morning by the circuit court. Every account you touched is frozen. Every property you stole is under federal protection. And you, I said, turning to Silas, are now violating your probation again. Darla's mouth opened, but no words came. You burned my home, I whispered. my voice shaking, and tried to burn my name. But I built my name in courtrooms where men like you cry behind lawyers. Sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Carrington lunged, but the door flew open. U.S. Marshals swarmed in. Deeks came behind them, grinning. It was over. Whispering Pines HO was officially under federal investigation. 4 arrests, dozens of victims. Millions recovered. 1 week later, I stood in front of what remained of my old home, just soil and scorched stone. But beside it, a new sign, Future Site, Monroe Legal Aid Foundation. Built for every homeowner who'd been silenced, threatened, or stolen from. Free of charge. No HOA strings attached. I wasn't running anymore. I wasn't hiding. I was building something again, this time with fireproof walls. They tried to erase me with fire, but all they did was light the match that burned their empire to the ground. My name is Judge Elaine Monroe, and justice always finds a way. Like, share, subscribe for more true justice stories? Where corruption meets karma? Want the next tale? Say the word, I've got another storm ready. What would you do if the people meant to protect your community turned into the ones destroying it? Tell me in the comments. Because stories like these, they're not fiction anymore.